All right, so if you're familiar with Twitch, check it out. Apparently there's something to that or whatever. But anyway, the point is that we're gonna add some more stuff. I wanted to also get to this Keith Olbermann thing because this guy is absolutely unhinged, and I wanted to do a standalone video because it's just that ridiculous. So it starts out from like 2 days ago, I think, because this is from. So today's the 8th, so yesterday. So he starts out with this. Did Tucker Carlson just get himself fired by Rupert Murdoch? So it's, I'm assuming, just going to be absolutely unhinged. So we're just going to go through this. Like I said, I just want to make a little standalone video of Keith Olbermann losing his mind. I really wish he would record this stuff with video, as I'm sure you guys would love if I recorded my stuff with video too. So, anyway, here we go.
I would like to congratulate Tucker Carlson on winning Dominion Voting Systems' lawsuit against Fox, quote, News, unquote, and News Corp for Dominion Voting Systems last night. And I'd like to thank Tucker Carlson for slitting his professional throat from ear to ear by doing the absolute last thing that Rupert Murdoch could have wanted him to do last night. And I'd also like to applaud Tucker Carlson for introducing a new catchphrase that will, for me, define media dishonesty forever. The video proves this. In the midst of a legal crisis so severe that Rupert Murdoch has reportedly considered firing the CEO of Fox, quote, News, unquote, because of it, and firing at least one out of the pile of Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Maria Bartiromo, and Janine Pirro because of it, and having, we now know, already fired Lou Dobbs because of it, in the midst of the release of paper trails a mile long and a mile wide with Carlson and the others refuting and repudiating Trump's claims of 2020 electoral fraud in private while selling that lie in public, and a time when the one thing a Rupert Murdoch entity could not do was newly claim that the 2020 election was stolen from Trump. How did Tucker Carlson open his first hour of trying to gaslight the January 6th insurrection with video improperly given to him by the Speaker of the House?
Well, okay, first of all, you're going to have to slow your roll. How is this video defined as being, what did he say again?
Not do was newly claim that the 2020 election was stolen from Trump. How did Tucker Carlson open his first hour of trying to gaslight the January 6th insurrection with video improperly given to him by the Speaker of the House?
All right, first of all, the video should be given to everybody. It was not improperly given. Second of all, he didn't actually insinuate that the election was stolen. That was not what he said. There was nothing of what Tucker Carlson has presented in the past 2 days had anything to do with the election in particular. It was only about the ignorance of most of the American public about what the January 6th Unselect Committee had omitted from their body of work, which essentially was, hey, this thing was also peaceful. Did you check that out? No, you didn't. You just labeled everything. It's almost like I made this analogy earlier today, but I'll state it again. It's like the way that they depicted this thing is that the QAnon shaman ran in to the Capitol, busted down the door, kicking it with his jacked boots, and then had an AR-15 on each arm and just fired indiscriminately into the air like Yosemite Sam, even down at the floor like Yosemite Sam, to like boost himself up the stairs or whatever. Like, that is the depiction that most of the people on the left and the general public has gotten from the mainstream news media about what happened on January 6th, which is clearly a very inaccurate description. If you look at the totality of everything, what you see is a large crowd that had a permit, by the way, those boundaries were skirted by people like Ray Epps and others that we still don't understand the full scope of what their role was. Like, so you treat everybody, including throwing people with cancer, grandmas with cancer into 2 months of prison, but you have kid gloves with Ray Epps, the person that was there at the breach that breached those particular set boundaries for a scheduled protest, which Capitol Police actually had to sign off on, by the way. So one of the big things I think Tucker kind of missed really highlighting. I'm glad he did. He did show it. He did show the document. He did show. Let's see. I think I have the. I think I still have it up from earlier. Here we go. Yeah. So right here. So you have an actual map. You have an actual document here. Hang on.
Avenue where organizers had secured a
right here. So right, United States Capitol Police Board, right there at the top, at the very top, permit relating to demonstrating activities on the United States Capitol grounds. So you even right here, East Front Grassy Area 8, right here, you have right there all of this. They knew that there was going to be a protest there. They knew that was going to be there. So why did they turn down the resources? Well, it seems very clear at this point that they wanted this thing to happen. Let's just before we get too much for it. Thank you, Just Jim, for the overtime ship. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, Just Jim, over there in the Foxhole Pilled chat. All right, here we go.
Quote, the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy. Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it. Unquote. The point of the Dominion defamation suit against Rupert Murdoch and his minions. And Tucker Carlson began his hour of propaganda by doing the same thing all over again. I'd also like to take the opportunity to congratulate the next co-owners of Fox, quote, News, unquote, and maybe News Corp as well, after they sue Rupert Murdoch and Tucker Carlson for repeatedly calling them liars. That would be former Republican Congresspeople Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, although they presumably will have to share ownership with, Dominion voting systems. Nothing of the much-hyped video Carlson showed proved anything, least of all his basic premise that the January 6th assault on the Capitol was staged by federal agents, since there are people shown on the 44,000 hours of video who have not yet been arrested. Therefore, they must be federal agents instead of, say, unicorns.
The whole unicorn argument. All right, we have a link. Thank you so much to Michael Myers over there. So this is the Keith Olbermann tearing up the Ann Coulter doll. So let's check this out. So just, because this episode of Overtime is brought to you by Keith Olbermann and apparently MSNBC. So his whole thing is he has this weird, I hate to use a leftist phrase like patriarchy. He has this weird fatherly patriarchal complex of he's the father of Fox of MSNBC. He created Rachel Maddow, don't you know? So here we go. Let's check this out.
I wonder how they met.
Number 8.
Yes.
When does the Chinese New Year, already being celebrated in Lithuania, as you reported earlier this week, when does it begin?
February.
Please, we need a day, sir.
February the 5th.
No, February the 9th. The show's on at 8 o'clock if you want to catch it next week, Monday through Friday.
I wonder who'll be hosting this segment.
Name the medical procedure performed on King Tut this week.
Give him a CAT scan.
That's right.
See if he was murdered or not.
And what was noteworthy this week about Kelsey and Rory-Ann Gabel of Leominster, Massachusetts?
Of Leominster,
That's the one.
Massachusetts. Well, we're past. Yeah, time's
There
up, so
you
it doesn't
go.
make a difference. So that doesn't count as an
First
ass.
baby's born.
That's right, 2 years in a row.
Exactly.
But I got six
right.
6.5 right.
6.5 right. We're going to give you that.
But the most important question is now how many I got wrong, which is like 3.
Yes.
I got 3 wrong, so okay, all right, 150.
You get
Not a
the
bad start.
prize.
I get the prize. And the personal satisfaction, what is this?
A very special prize this week. It's a talking Ann Coulter doll.
Well, of course it's a talking Ann Coulter doll. It couldn't be any other kind. Does it speak English, or what is it? Is it just that usual stuff she speaks?
Yeah, something like that.
Is it Ann? Okay, all right, take the wide shot. You've got the wide shot? Okay.
So embarrassing when you do these things.
That's $150 out of my pocket, but let me tell you, that was worth it. Only 51 weeks to go. Happy New Year. Tune in next time for another well-rounded public humiliation
Jesus, ease it up, Joe Scarborough 2.0.
at my expense when we again play.
What have we learned?
Thanks for being part of it. I'm Keith Olbermann. Good night and good luck. That's all that's left.
That's all that's left is the legs, which I'm probably allegedly going to have sex with later. What a fucking psycho. Holy shit. Thanks. I guess it's only apropos that Michael Myers over there in Foxhole is the one that shared that link. Holy shit, this guy's a psychopath. What the fuck? So crazy. All right. Whew. Wow. Okay, here we go. Back to the thing. And if you guys are over on if you guys have a Twitch thing or whatever it is, I don't know. I just created an account, so if you want to check it out, give us some mentions over there. It might help us get over there in the algorithm, so we'll check that out. All right, here we go.
Carlson's argument is that peaceful sightseers, he used the word sightseers, were goaded somehow by a few hooligans. He also used the word hooligans into non-violent chaos. And the whole premise of January 6th as an insurrection was a fabrication by Nancy Pelosi to cover up the real crimes in the 2020 election.
That seems pretty much what's going on here. I mean, maybe not the election per se, but just they wanted to taint Trump's legacy. We're going to go over this tomorrow. I'm really glad that so Jimmy Dore and this other guy, what's the guy's name? Somebody from the Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone. These people are total lefties, right? But they understand exactly what was going on with January 6th. It was essentially a staged false flag to allow to taint anything about Trump's legacy moving forward. Like other people that are not aligned with MAGA, they're getting it. They understand what the hell happened here, and so this is why they're so desperate and in panic mode here.
Popcorn consumption at Dominion voting systems breaks all records. It was not just, though, that the video proved none of that. It was that nothing of the video even seemed connected to any of the claims Carlson was making. That's not surprising. Nothing of that video had to prove anything to the Fox audience. Nothing of the video or the claims had to be connected. Tucker Carlson assumes his viewers are stupid enough to believe anything he tells them, and of course he is exactly right. They are stupid enough to believe anything he tells them. They're Fox viewers.
Who the hell are Keith Olbermann viewers that really believe what he's saying? Like I would have to imagine if you're talking about the hierarchy of stupid, you are at the top. You are the Mount Everest of stupid.
Show video, add sophistry, factually lie, misdirect, decontextualize, but just keep saying, the video proves this. The video proves this, and you have done all you need to do with people whose entire lives require only that they are fed enough nonsense to continuously support their own stupid rationalizations about their own lives, about the victimization of white people, about how much better it is to be a minority right now, about QAnon, about Trump, about 2020, about Tucker Carlson being good on TV, and about January 6th. God help me, I watched the show. Basically, if Tucker Carlson were to do a show like that one, but about Pearl Harbor, he would play the film backwards and insist Pearl Harbor was a false flag and the American Navy.
Pearl Harbor was an actual false flag. They needed it to get the Americans into the war. It's pretty much why they said January 6th. Like, you got Kamala Harris come out there saying it was the same thing as 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. It's on the same level, and in that respect, it actually is kind of true, because January 6th, Pearl Harbor, and 9/11 were all false flags where intelligence was known ahead of time, and we didn't act. And that's the most generous version of those. Obviously, there's way more stuff involved in each of those events, but for the sake of time, because this isn't a 9/11 video, this is not a Pearl Harbor video, this is a Keith Olbermann is a lunatic video.
Had blown up its own ships in the water, hoping that the debris would fly into the sky and knock down Japanese pilots who were just sightseeing.
Oh my God. So really, you went that far as to try to... Oh my God. It's so despicable.
In order to frame a couple of hooligans named Tojo and Emperor Hirohito. It was that nonsensical. And again, given the audience, that's all it needed to be. But as somebody who once worked with Tucker Carlson, who was once pleaded with by our bosses to co-anchor a program with Tucker Carlson, I am genuinely stunned that even he was arrogant and stupid enough to repeat this on-air gaslighting in exactly the same manner that has put Fox, quote, News, unquote, at risk of $1.6 billion in defamation damages or more in the Dominion case. If that case needed for anybody's memory to be refreshed about what Carlson and Hannity and Ingram and Murdoch all did, Carlson did it for them last night. This, of course, raises a further question. How did Fox let him do this to them on their own air?
He's an employee. He has certain latitudes. I mean, what else?
And it raises one more question. How did Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Murdoch not strangle Tucker Carlson into unconsciousness rather than let him destroy them as he did last night? I guess it would be helpful to summarize what Carlson showed and said. He started with the big lie stuff about the election, as I've already quoted. Then he said the video proved that January 6th committee members lied. Then he said the video proved the evidence was hidden. Then he said Kevin McCarthy rectified the crime. Then he said in a moment that in any other context would have been laugh out loud funny, we assumed those who weren't arrested were federal agents of some kind. We still assume that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Ray Epps or not? Are you going to address that? You probably won't even say his name because you're a fucking coward.
If anybody can bring that old joke to life, it's Tucker Carlson. In Assume, he is both the ass and the me. He said the video proved the January 6th criminals were political prisoners because the video had not been provided to them.
That's actually true. A lot of the January 6ers, they were not allowed to have access to the videos, which they had basically kept under lock and key, akin to the scene from Mission Impossible 1, where they have, they're trying to go after the knock list, and they drop down from the ceiling to try to steal it, and they have the pressure sensitive floor and the key log entry for each individual person. Like, that's basically how it was described from Zoe Lofgren and Adam Schiff and anyone else who's talked about this. Even Raskin, I think he's made mention to this. Is like, we had a specific procedure. Everyone knew who accessed it. So yeah, they had it locked down, and it was a thing. It's been a thing. We've seen this on Twitter, from Julie Kelly, other people that have been following the January 6th defendants. It is a very real thing that they had to fight to get any footage of themselves in the Capitol. And I made this point earlier today, and I made this point previously over the past few weeks, as though they opened up individual cases for all these people. So if you're saying that this thing stopped an official proceeding, you're charging people with the obstruction of an official proceeding, what's to say that you are the person that did that? If the person next to you had a different case that was opened, did that person obstruct the official proceeding? Or how many people does it take? What's the quantity required for the obstruction of an official proceeding? I objected to the certification of the electoral counts on that day over here 2,000 miles away in Texas. Does that mean that I was also guilty of obstruction of official proceeding? Like, at what point does it? And I hope that the January 6th defendants have competent lawyers enough to at least consider that, because if they're saying that my client obstructed the official proceeding, did they? Because I'm pretty sure by the time anyone breached the entrance there, they already left. So the timeline matters, and this is why they didn't want to release the tape to the January 6th defendants. Because if they ended the session and they left, and it was before even the first person went into the Capitol, then no one essentially obstructed an official proceeding. So, or at least the very first person that did that is the one that obstructed the official proceeding, that caused them to evacuate. So. That is part of the disappointment, I suppose, with the Tucker Carlson stuff that we saw. So we just need to keep pushing for more disclosures. All right, Keith, go ahead with your nonsense.
Politico then promptly quoted Capitol Police sources who said all that video was made available to all the defendants by March of 2021. Carlson said the video proved that the people in the crowd must have been federal agents. He said the video showed people in civilian clothes holding doors open for the sightseers, but he said that since he assumed they were federal agents, he couldn't show that part of the video because it would be unfair to point at a specific person and say he was a federal agent. Later, of course, he showed the video of Ray Epps and said that proved he was a federal agent.
Okay, well, what do you, again, like, okay.
Carlson said Ashley Babbitt was murdered, but
true.
She's not on the 44,000 hours of video, not once, so he could only speculate. But other video proved that if there were video, it would prove she was murdered. Carlson said the protest of the release of the video proves that the video demolishes the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. He said the video proved that people who protested its release because it might risk lives or jeopardize safety procedures can't say that because they all support open borders and defunding the police. And then he had on the bat crap crazy Congressman Massey of Kentucky, who said he didn't feel like his life was at risk at the Capitol. Carlson said the video showed the QAnon shaman didn't murder anybody. And in fact, the shaman later thanked the Capitol Police in a prayer. And because the shaman wasn't guilty of that, nobody was guilty of anything. He said the video proves that all the rioters were taking, quote, cheerful selfies.
That's not what he said. So you're mischaracterizing what he said. Now, could Tucker have been a little bit more clear? Probably. To be honest, to be fair, because this is the way that they were going to attack him on this. But I think that this is kind of like a bait in a sense. If I recall, it was like last week. Tucker Carlson. I mean, when I say he, had said that they were going to review this stuff, and it was going to be 1 week and then 2 weeks. So they were going to like have a series of stuff on the first week, and I think people have forgotten that there was the second week coming. So next week, I think there's going to be something coming, just based on my recollection of what Tucker had said himself, and this gives them the chance to let them on this particular development. Let them try to rewrite history on it. And so when they come back next week, so hopefully they do. I'm trying to recall. Does anyone else remember this? I'm pretty sure that Tucker said that they were doing. It was going to be 2 weeks. It was going to be like a couple episodes on 1 week and a couple episodes on the next week, on the following week. Let me know in the chat if you guys recall that as well, because I'm pretty sure we covered that on this show.
My God! Cheerful selfies! And he said that the few minutes of footage that he showed proved that the Capitol Police did not try to arrest anybody, so how could anybody be guilty? And he showed only video of the Capitol Police not getting their brains beaten in, and oh look, there's video of Officer Brian...
I'm sorry, whose brains got beaten in, and you're about to bring in Sitnik?
...proved that the Capitol Police did not try to arrest anybody, so how could anybody be guilty? And he showed only video of the Capitol Police not getting their brains beaten in, and oh look, there's video of Officer Brian Sicknick walking around the Capitol after, he said, the January 6th committee said Sicknick had already been murdered and they're liars, and the video proves that, and the video proves this, and if he'd shown the Zapruder film, he would have shown it backwards and said a bullet lodged in Kennedy's head had suddenly ejected itself in a bid to kill Lee Harvey Oswald.
So Keith Olbermann right there is saying that, you lied about when the timestamp of the video of Sicknick walking around with his helmet on. You're lying about that, and you just showed the before footage of before he was actually maimed. Is that what you're implying, Keith?
Again, I'm not surprised that the video that he showed was as nonsensical or non-impactful as it was, nor that Carlson's presentation was as weak as it was. But I remain absolutely shocked that Fox let this go out on their air this week, with this Dominion lawsuit hanging over its head, centering on the premise that Fox people, Carlson named specifically, will lie about anything, whether they already knew in advance they were lying and acknowledged afterwards that they were lying. I cannot fathom Murdoch's strategy, unless he is planning to make Tucker Carlson himself the scapegoat who will inevitably fall in the wake of the Dominion case, and whatever more revelations Dominion lawyers have up their sleeves. There is one matter of importance Carlson raised inadvertently. He said the Capitol Police had looked at all of the tape Fox planned to show, and the Capitol Police had only minor requests, including the blurring of video of one door, and Fox made that change. Given that just Sunday morning, Hakeem Jeffries had said, quote, "I have no indication at this moment that the police have vetted that footage. We have a problem here." This may be the same problem underscored by image after image that Carlson showed of Capitol Police standing by placidly, even seeming to guide or assist as insurrectionists, including that poor fool, the Q shaman, wandered the halls of the Capitol. Not once was the prospect raised, as it had begun to be raised while the insurrection was just beginning that day, that there were Capitol officers sympathetic to Trump, who were by plan or by happenstance sympathetic to Trump and his goon squads as they approached. Carlson even asked one of his stooge guests why, if this was an insurrection, police didn't arrest everybody. And since, what else? The video proved this. Why weren't the police charged as accessories? Well, what the hell, Tucker? You got one. Why indeed? Who at the Capitol Police secretly approved the video? Why wouldn't such information, Capitol Police approved Tucker Carlson video, seemingly so beneficial to Fox and Kevin McCarthy, why wouldn't that be trumpeted by Fox and Kevin McCarthy? Assuming that Tucker Carlson did not appreciate what damage he was doing to his own employer's networks and Fox in particular, I guess he did this to shore up Trump, obviously, especially in light of the none too surprising calculations released by the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy that if Trump were squeezed out of the Republican nomination and into a third-party role, Trump would not be on the ballot in as many as 28 states, and his absolute maximum electoral college vote count would be 290. More immediately, there is the delightful implosion of Jim Jordan's House Weaponization Committee, which, after all, is predicated on the same sort of nonsense as Tucker Carlson showing video of nothing much happening and declaring this means January 6th was a government plot, and the video proves this. Jim Jordan is getting savaged by right-wingers, assaulted on Fox by Jesse Waters, buried by a former Chuck Grassley aide on Twitter, insulted by Epoch Times TV. Or as the headline at Axios read, Jim Jordan scrambles amid claims weaponization probe is a dud. In the bigger picture, of course, Tucker Carlson did this, possibly sabotaging his own network's existence because he is a megalomaniac.
Yeah, about that. Keith, would you maybe consider yourself to be a megalomaniac? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but holy shitballs. So here we go. We have Keith Olbermann talking about did Tucker Carlson just get himself fired by Rupert? I would say no, because they let him do it. So I think that's the end of this particular segment. Let's see what else we got. Give me about 60 seconds here to see if there's another segment on this. I believe there is one more segment we're going to do on Keith Olbermann for this standalone video. Give me about 60 seconds, like I said. All right, here we go.
Carlson's Trump derangement syndrome dance party went into reruns last night and was then canceled out of sheer boredom, whereupon its star gave up and ran away. And Carlson, clearly terrified and no longer in control of whatever it was he had been trying to do with the January 6th government video he had gained illicit access to, headed for the hills. And before you could say Kevin McCarthy wasn't watching, Carlson was reduced to playing a tape of an old interview with Russell Brand.
All right, so apparently, okay, so if you guys recall from the horrible discussions today, there was a little bit of a scuffle between our the OG crew for Former 2 Productions. So we were talking about this whole thing about, did Chuck Schumer get to the crew over there? Like, did they get to Tucker Carlson? And so I guess you could probably consider if they thought that, okay, they basically shot their shot on Monday. And so if they said, okay, on Tuesday, they're probably not going to top that, because that's just not the way corporate media works. Because we were like, why not? You capitalize on the fact that you have the audience there. And so if you think about how the corporate media works, they really don't capitalize on that. There's really not a history you can point to. And I'm thinking about this in hindsight now, after we had our discussion earlier today, and then now listening to Keith here say that, they got to him.
Who used to be a comedian, or
Let me hear this one more time.
He had gained illicit access to,
Okay, yeah, illicit access to. No.
headed for the hills. And before you could say,
Right, so he's saying, so they're trying to say that Tucker tuck-tailed and ran, based upon what? The fact that the Capitol Police, one of the officers had to admit that there was security failures. Like, that's seems to be bigger than the fact that, a QAnon shaman just was walking around indiscriminately. But okay, go ahead.
Kevin McCarthy wasn't watching, Carlson was reduced to playing a tape of an old interview with Russell Brand, who used to be a comedian or something. If you want to truly go conspiracy theory on this week, the whole farce could not have done more damage to Tucker Carlson and Fox, quote, News, unquote, if it had been designed to do so. The further Carlson went out onto that limb, the more those who helped him out there backed away. Before the day was over, Kevin McCarthy was again revealing he didn't even watch. A prediction here, that was the last time you will hear about January 6th from Tucker Carlson for a long, long time. For one
Until next week, probably.
practical thing, Carlson apparently ran out of new hidden January 6th video. He literally had to show old hidden January 6th video. The exact same tape last night of the QAnon shaman that he ran Monday night, right down to the exact same narration that ran Monday night. Carlson also gave an amazingly tedious 20-minute monologue, and listen, I know a tedious 20-minute monologue when I hear one.
You do it every single time I check you out.
I have given one or two of them in my life.
Every single time.
It was fleshed out with vague demands for apologies from Liz Cheney and Anderson Cooper. Its tone lacked all of the drama of Monday night's sales job, and it sunk quickly from frightening to kvetchy. And it was highlighted by the epitome of self-unawareness, a Tucker Carlson lecture on how to tell when terrified small men are lying to you. Then, tellingly, 28 hours after the revelation of the text in which he said of Trump, "I hate him passionately," Tucker Carlson ran a dead serious report from poor Kevin Corke, gushing about Trump's recent promise that if elected, we will all get new freedom cities and flying cars and a pony, probably. Carlson did not say this was him begging for mercy from Trump after the "I hate him passionately" text was revealed. He didn't have to say that. So the Carlson January 6th video gaslighting ended with a whimper and not a bang. Something approaching or exceeding a third of the whole thing was just footage of Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, walking around the halls of Congress, which to Carlson was supposed to be as dramatic and decisive as the Zapruder film. And Carlson's conclusion was that since Chansley didn't kill any police or melt anything inside Congress with his eyes, clearly the violent insurrection was not a violent insurrection. In conclusion, January 6th is a land of contrasts. Thank you. Carlson may have exited stage right out of fear or under orders from his bosses and terminated early his quixotic quest to gaslight the coup and lay the ground for the House Republicans to undermine the January 6th committee on Trump's behalf. But while he bailed out, America piled on. Tucker Carlson and Fox, quote, News, unquote, were attacked by everybody from Ben Shapiro to Joe Biden. An ad hoc committee centered by former George W. Bush presidential ethics advisor demanded the House investigate Speaker McCarthy and others for the backroom deal that gave Carlson access to that video that turned out to be an utter boring dud.
So why are you making such a big deal about it? That's the crazy thing. All right, let me summarize the rest of this one so we can move on to the next piece here. So, okay. So he usually puts some timestamps in here. Okay, so we're at 5 minutes here. Freedom City, flying car, we covered that. He bailed out. America piled on. So there, some of the discussion we had during deplorable discussions earlier today, there was a much to do about this whole thing about some people saying, "Oh, it seems as though Carlson had to, tamper things down." But all of this stuff was made after, or all these comments were made after it had already aired. So if they said that, someone must have gotten to him, well, isn't that your own expectations being let down? It's not that you have evidence that someone got to him. Isn't it just your expectations weren't met? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to I'm going to do one more segment here with Joy Reid. We're going to go ahead and cut off the experimental Twitch stream. So thank you to King Chris for over there for checking it out. Much appreciated. We're going to move back over to the other platforms. So I just wanted to try to add that and make sure it worked as a additional stream tonight. So all right, so stop Twitch. Stop. I'm gonna have to. Is anyone even watching on YouTube? Oh, if you're on YouTube, we'll keep it going for YouTube. Okay. Okay, here we go. So this is Jory Reid talking about the stuff about the Tucker thing, which we're covering. All right, here we go. Do we have any super chats? Let me see. Thank you again to Just Jim for the ship over there in the Foxhole Pill chat and the 110 gold pills. I suppose with the message Pajai. So you have your palindrome for 1771 over there. Much appreciated. Thank you to Just Jim. Here we go. Jory Reid.
For falsely depicting the January 6th assault on the Capitol as a peaceful gathering will get in line. The Capitol Police and Republican lawmakers are way ahead of you. The readout continues after this. If you thought that the Dominion lawsuit exposing Fox for lying to their viewers was going to give Tucker Carlson a change of heart and that maybe he'd start using his pretend news show to start telling the truth, well, think again. Because he was back at it last night, doing exactly what everyone with a brain expected that he would do with the exclusive access speaker in name only Kevin McCarthy gave him to 40,000 hours of January 6th footage. He cherry-picked that footage to find little clips showing benign moments from that day and use those clips to continue lying about January 6th. Just never forget that Tucker, along with most of...
Yes, never forget. January 6th, 9/11, Pearl Harbor.
The people whose names you know at Fox admitted under oath in the Dominion lawsuit, in those depositions, that they never believed Trump's election lie.
That's actually not what happened. What you're talking about is text messages and emails that have those phrases within them. Did they give testimony that said explicitly that? No. It's text messages and emails.
Lies. But Tucker and friends repeated them anyway on air. Tucker added to that, producing a conspiracy theory documentary lying about the insurrection. And last night, he portrayed the sacking of our Capitol as nothing but a peaceful gathering.
That's not what he did. What he said that what had been portrayed by the January 6th Unselect Committee was an incomplete picture of the majority of the events of what had happened.
They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek.
Right. These people in particular, the people that he's showing in these videos, the ones that, besides the melee B-roll videos that they show from the West entrance, they never showed videos like this. They didn't. It was because they had to have this imagery for their propaganda that it was just a melee the whole time. It was just that level of melee of like squeezing an officer in the doorway, which no one in their right mind condones. But they have to make it appear as though every single person that attended the rally did something in that category of melee.
These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol.
That rather desperate attempt to own the libs, honestly, I don't think it was the own Tuckums thought it was. Not only do you have Republicans like North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis calling it BS, the Capitol Police Chief released a statement tearing into Tucker, saying the segment was filled with offensive and misleading conclusions about the attack. But in a way, Tucker has done us all a service, because his trip down the Soviet propaganda wormhole has led to actual journalists asking more questions about that day. There's a video that he played that shows the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, in his face paint Halloween costume, being led through the Capitol by police, which begs the question, whatever happened to the cops who were seen taking selfies with insurrectionists? We know that 6 Capitol Police officers were disciplined after that day, but not what they were disciplined for. And since we actually can't hear the sound on that tape, we actually have no idea what those officers are saying to Chansley. Though we do know that the Capitol Police Chief defended them in his letter today, saying that what they were doing was de-escalation. And because Tucker's not an actual journalist, and Fox isn't...
If you think that you saying someone is not an actual journalist means that you yourself feel yourself to be a journalist, Joy Reid, I hate to break it to you, girl. You ain't no journalist.
Really a news network. His producers didn't bother to ask the Capitol Police to comment or get answers to those questions. And if this was the way those 4 hours went down, all peaceful-like, why did officers from other jurisdictions have to respond to the Capitol to help?
Because the National Guard was not allowed to show up until later, because they purposely had things like the unipipe bomber, I guess is the only thing you could say. Like the unipipe bomber had to be there apparently, because no one knows what he looks like. It's just some guy in a hoodie, so very similar to that. So take your pick. I mean, there's plenty. What
Why
you say?
Why did officers from other jurisdictions have to respond to the Capitol to help?
Because it was understaffed. It was very clear that that's what happened. So why wasn't that question asked by the unselect committee?
Why did some of the peaceful tourists plant pipe bombs at Democratic and Republican headquarters?
Well, when you say some, I think you mean one, because that's the only person they have on tape. They managed to get Meemaws and Papaws and everyone else, and especially the one I bring up is the grandma with cancer. You had to put in jail for 2 months. So if they can find these people, why can't they find that elusive pipe bomber?
And why weren't Capitol Police better staffed and better prepared to face a violent mob that day?
Because Nancy Pelosi and Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., said, nah, it looks pretty bad if we do that, even though they know how to take care of their own protests. So when they had their own, in what you would call favorable protests, such as BLM showing up to the Capitol for a protest, they had double the amount of personnel at the Capitol for what they would call a favorable protest that they agree with. But you're saying that one that they disagree with, one that they think is, according to, I don't know, reports from people like Joy Reid or Rachel Maddow or whatever, take your pick, or following the advice of Christopher Wray, saying that white supremacist groups are the most dangerous thing to our national security. Whatever, take your pick of all these people that bloviate about these bloated stats where they insert prison statistics into white supremacy type of statistics about within the country. Those are the people that are saying there should have been totally staffed, but why weren't we? Well, if that was your major concern, why didn't you?
When Trump and his people were literally tweeting that they were coming.
Right, exactly. So the intelligence was there, and they ignored it. So thank you for proving my point once again and again and again and again, and I'm sure you're going to prove it again in just a few seconds, Joy.
Senator Ron Johnson, who ran with everybody else on January 6th, later lied, saying he didn't feel threatened because the mob was filled with Trump supporters. Well, is that why Capitol Police weren't more prepared?
Yes.
Because we saw what happened in 2020 during...
Oh, you... This is why I like doing this stuff live with you guys, because... So they do know how to prepare. What an idiot. There we go.
During the Black Lives Matter protest, the preparation was not the same.
I know. That's the point. That's the whole point, is that when you had something that was favorable to you, this is your response. When you had something that was disfavorable to your point, you didn't have enough people. It's like...
Also, we don't know this from that video. We don't know what time those scenes that he's playing took place. Where are the timestamps?
I actually, I would like to see timestamps on any video.
Was it hour 1? Because the whole insurrection lasted for 4 hours. That's why real...
Oh, you mean it wasn't like a whole day? It wasn't like forever? It wasn't like it's still going on, as you're implying?
Real news networks need to have those tapes too. Because what Tucker's doing here is feeding his hardcore viewers their feelings-based...
Hey, it's not Tucker. It's Tuckums, and you know it.
...beliefs about that day, knowing that many of them didn't watch the January 6th hearings and have probably never seen the raw footage of the violence. Just like after the election, he is doing what he has to do to keep them buying his supply while gaslighting everyone else. He's telling millions of people who did watch the live coverage that day and saw the cops getting...
So this is what they're reduced to. They're like, you guys, if you're watching Fox News, you just didn't see what happened that day. Bullshit. Anybody that probably watches Fox News, I would assume, knows what actually happened, because there's been plenty of times where this footage has been played on Fox News. So there's no secret that's going on there.
Crushed in doors and beaten by protesters with flagpoles.
Again, you're still showing the same footage that we've seen for the past 2 years. And I ask you, what caused this? You don't show it.
No. You didn't actually see any of that. And the cops who got the crap beaten out of you, that didn't really happen to you. But here's the thing, Tucker. We did see it. And guess what? We've got tapes too.
All right, well, show how it happened.
Oh, I took the building. Hold.
On that door up. If we're moving, we need to move now.
Copy.
If we lose...
This is produced video. This is to elicit a emotional response. Try again, Joy.
Any more time, we may lose the ability to...
Yeah, where's the timestamp on this video? Good point. Thank you, Spicoli.
to leave. So if we're going to leave, we need to do it now.
They've gained access to the second floor, and I've got public about 5 feet from me down here below.
Okay, copy. They are on the second floor, moving in now. We may want to consider getting out and leaving now. Copy.
Second floor!
I couldn't believe my eyes. There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up.
I was slipping in their blood.
They were, they had, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
Really? Uh-huh. Okay. If you're slipping in people's blood, I'm sorry, those people probably died. Oh, wait a minute. How many officers died during January 6th? Well, if you go with, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Joe Biden or you talk to someone in that administration or whatever, it's like 100 died, It's like, you don't know shit, Jack.
I remember trying to retain my gun. I remember guys chanting kill him with his own gun. So tased you, right? Yeah, I was tased. I think about a half dozen times on the back of my neck.
I want to just get a snap of that.
Yeah, I took a picture. So, unless this was like a Westworld style simulation where the tourism is that you get to go wild on the police, that ain't peaceful. I mean, if it was peaceful, why were members of Congress in gas masks?
Because they're fucking cowards and they were afraid for the first time of their constituency. Let's see. Let's go over to, you got a cookie fight over here on the Foxhole. Let's see. Thank you to TX Girl 71 with the cookie with the message Average Joe Patriot sent me. Much appreciated. Thank you to Ann Abolitionist with the cookie with the message thank you for your service. I can't watch stupid for too long as you do. No problem. I appreciate that. Thank you, Just Gem with the cookie with the cookie fight message. And Abolitionist with the cookie. Just Gem with the cookie. And Abolitionist with the cookie. Just Gem with the cookie. And Abolitionist with the cookie. And Just Gem with the cookie with the message real news. Right, real news needs the footage. Pinata should get the footage next. Actually, everyone should get the footage for sure. Because, I mean, hell, 2 weeks with the Anons? Holy shit, that thing will be blown wide open. Let's see. An Abolitionist with the cookie says, amazing how the camera people are always ahead of the action. How do they get there before the mob? Especially when the guy is going up the stairs. Like, who is filming the cop that is going up the stairs? Like, and there, that is very odd for sure.
Hiding on the chamber floors, including Republican Congressman Andrew Clyde, who later pulled a Fox and called the whole thing a normal tourist visit, despite there being pictures of him barricading the chamber door to keep the tourists from busting in. Remember the guy who broke into Speaker Pelosi's office and propped his feet on her desk? Does that normally come included with a Capitol tour? And if these people didn't do anything wrong, then why were
no one said that no one did anything wrong?
More than 1,000 of them arrested on charges related to the attack? And why have so many of them pleaded guilty to crimes and gone to prison?
Because they were coerced to because of the D.C. swamp.
For tourism? Again, Tucker testified under oath that he lies to his audience for money.
And your good friend, Rachel Maddow, did the same thing. Alex Jones did the same thing. They say that you shouldn't take me seriously. This is all for entertainment. And while I'm at it, anything that Drunk Pinata says is for entertainment purposes only.
Those were not sightseers. You weren't hallucinating. All of that violence really did happen.
Although you guys know, I've have a very good track record of being myself.
Pretending that it didn't is just straight up disrespectful to the men and women who risked their lives to save those lawmakers, Democrat and Republican, that day, not to mention our democracy. Sergeant Aquilino Gonell, one of the officers who battled the mob that day, posted this picture captioned, "My souvenir from the peaceful sightseeing mob." And the family of Officer Brian Sicknick, who died as a result of the insurrection,
that's a false statement,
issued a scathing statement asking, what will it take to silence the lies from people like Carlson? What will it take to convince people that the January 6th insurrection was very real?
No one denies that it was real.
Was very violent, and that the event...
No one denies that there was parts of it that were violent.
...was orchestrated by a man who is every...
No, well, orchestrated by a man or an agency, I think agency is probably a little bit more on the nose.
...bit as corrupt and evil as Vladimir Putin. The Sicknick family would love nothing more than to have Brian back with us and to resume our normal lives. Fictitious news outlets like Fox and its rabid followers will not allow that. Every time the pain of that day seems to have ebbed a bit, organizations like Fox rip our wounds wide open again, and we are frankly sick of it. Leave us the hell alone.
Did anyone talk to you or do anything what you're talking about? Like, if because someone brings up your name, that doesn't mean anything. And which leads me to what we're definitely gonna, which is what we're definitely gonna have to talk about tomorrow. And one of the reasons why I wanted to play this clip. It is very clear that what's going to happen moving forward is that they're going to use the Alex Jones, Sandy Hook stuff to essentially, if you have any inkling or any kind of an opinion that goes outside of what the mainstream news narrative is, you are now inciting physical harm. You can be civilly sued for any harm. I mean, think about what they were just what they were just saying there. They're insinuating that, the Sicknick family is now harmed by what? Tucker Carlson saying that the guy was wearing a helmet, and that if you show anything about that, or like, it is very clear where they're going with this. They're going to use their game plan essentially is that if you're going against their narrative at all, they're going to have grounds to sue or ban your account or this and that. It's very clear where they're going with this. So it's pretty late, so I've already lost some clarity. So we'll have a better take on this tomorrow. But I just wanted to get this kind of standalone video out there for the Rumble and YouTube. So very much appreciated. Then we attempted to check out the Twitch situation. So if you're listening now, if you go over to Twitch, if you have a Twitch thing, whatever that is, it's Real Drunk Pinata, because apparently some asshole took Drunk Pinata. So that will do it for tonight, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern for the regular Thinking Logically show. And we'll have to see. I might have to go early tomorrow. There's so much shit. It's insane. But from what I've seen, there's a good amount of repetitive part to it. So I guess we'll take our pick from the best of the worst, as it usually goes, So we'll find the most ridiculous takes and pundits. So anyway, that'll do it for tonight, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for D-Live over there, Rumble, and Foxhole. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, let me go ahead and take a second here. Let me close down the other streams, and then we'll head over to Foxhole for the finish with the scratching and the acknowledgments over there. Okay, here we go.